Namaskar, dear friends. Today, the question from one of my students is, how do I get over a broken heart? This is always very difficult. So I'm very glad to address this tough place that we find ourselves in more than once, usually in our lives. Maybe somebody has gotten through life without a broken heart, but I bet at least once we've experienced this to some degree. And so the first piece of guidance that comes to mind is really the same guidance that would come to mind with any question, is to look within. And looking within means we're not placing our well-being in the hands of anyone else or anything else. This is freedom because it means that we don't have to depend on something to be a certain way or someone to be a certain way in order for us to be okay. So it's actually good news. And thereby we turn within for our well-being, because when we get in touch with our higher self, our true nature, this is why it's called self-realization. The ultimate pursuit is self-realization. When we turn to the higher self, we turn to that which does not suffer. Our higher self is peace, love, fully adequate to anything life presents, unlimited in its potential. So very wise. And our higher self has always been there, will always be there. It is that which never dies, infinite. You could call it the kingdom of God within. And so when we have a strong relationship with our higher self, sometimes I call it our internal mentor. When we have a strong relationship, so strong that we know that is who we are, and eventually with some work, and this is what I guide my clients through, we operate from the place of center, of presence, of higher self. And this is a place of joy, bliss, peace, equanimity. When we are aligned with who we really are, the content of the external world, of the outside world, doesn't faze us in the same way that it would if we were identified with ego or the small self. The small self has so many likes and dislikes and preferences, and things have to be a certain way, and it's a place of suffering to be identified with ego. And so the best way to align with who we really are is to meditate. When we meditate, we're plugging into the source, to the mystery of life. When we meditate, we are purifying the system, that our body is our temple. We are not the body. It's our vehicle on this earth school. And it needs to be maintained and used properly. It needs to be cared for, I should say, would be a better word than used. It needs to be cared for and respected. And meditation is one of the ways by which we purify the system, eliminating energy blockages and enlivening ourselves with life force, prana, chi. when we meditate regularly, we change our brains, we change the chemistry of our body, and we experience increased levels of joy, bliss, peace. It's better than drugs. There is no need to look to externals in any way, shape, or form for increasing our experience of well-being in life. The body is an incredible, incredible machine. And its natural state is that of health and well-being and strength. And it's only when we have, particular lifestyle patterns that we kind of muck up that system. So we really just have to get out of our own way. But that's getting off onto a bit of a tangent. So coming back to a broken heart, the best way to move through a relationship that has perhaps come to an end or a close or anything of that nature is to disidentify from the ego and all of its stories that it's layering on top of the actual reality of the situation. It's those stories that cause suffering. And we don't have to listen to those stories. When we disidentify from ego, we disentangle ourselves from those stories. We step free of that web and we align with our true nature, which is compassion and peace, which is wise beyond any book we could possibly read. So kind, so gentle, so caring. When we are in tune with our true nature, we automatically give ourselves the best self-care. We relax when we need to relax. We get enough sleep. We eat living, fresh, colorful, vibrant fruits and vegetables and juices. We slow down. We do a little bit less. We remember that the journey is the goal. There's no end result. We never arrive anywhere. We remember that it is only in the power of the present moment that we find peace. When we get off into stories of what would have been, what was, what could have been, what should be, these are all the layered stories of suffering that are truly the cause of the misery that we have in any given situation. The actual reality of events is truly simple and never that bad. It's just the stories that are so hard. So job number 1 is getting out of the voices in the head. Stepping aside from those stories, in other words. Voices is in quotes. Job number 1 is coming back to this moment. Tuning into our breath is a great way to do that. Observing the surroundings, taking in the beauty of nature, or wherever we are. Noticing where are we, getting out of the head. Using the senses is a great way to ground ourselves in the present moment and step out of the stories in the head. So, what do we see? What do we hear? What do we feel? Is there a breeze on our cheek? How does our food taste? All of these things. How does the earth feel under our feet? And pretty soon, we've forgotten about that story of doom and gloom of what could have been and what was. And we're in the flow of life and not in a resistance to what is. So grounding in the present moment, making sure that we are meditating twice a day, because we need to plug into that source of purification twice a day in order to recalibrate the system, because it gets out of whack really easily as we interact with the outside world or whatever we do during the day. And this is why twice a day is crucial. Even if it's just for 5 minutes. Personally, I've been doing it half an hour twice a day, and now working my way up to an hour twice a day. That's certainly not something I would recommend, but just throwing it out as what I'm doing, that I've been meditating for maybe 18 years, so it's been a while. And a lot of people would never ever do an hour twice a day. I'm sure there are many masters who would never do that. So that's just me. But back to a broken heart. Third thing would be remembering that we are the love that we seek. We cannot look to externals in any shape or form, whether it be objects or people or events, to complete us. And when we realize that reality, we don't place all of our expectations on someone else. It takes a lot of the pressure off that person and that relationship. And it actually brings a lot to the relationship, because we aren't demanding or asking anything of anyone, because we know that those things are only available through our personal practice of self-realization, and that the externals in the world are icing on the cake. They come and they go. Another way to say this is we place our primary value on that which is changeless, that which is permanent, instead of that which is impermanent, that which constantly changes. So we root in the vertical dimension of life, in the spiritual dimension of life, in other words. Our first priority is our spiritual dimension, that which never changes, the infinite, love, God, the kingdom of God within, who we really are, our higher self. And then everything else will be completely different when we're relating from that place of depth and not depending on others to provide us with that which we can only find within. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your experience is, and feel free to share your questions below. Thank you so much for your time. It is truly my honor and pleasure. I wish you a beautiful day with love, light, and presence. Please feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the notification bell. And again, thank you. Namaskar.